What's going on, gym bros and gym girls? My name is James, and welcome to episode 12 of Gym Bro Talks. Today we got Big Ron Jones on the show, and as he always says, he's got practical advice for your real world goals. Without further ado, let's welcome Big Ron Jones onto the show. How are you doing today, Ron?
Outstanding, man.
Awesome. Hey, thanks for, again, taking the time out of your day to come onto the show today. Basically, I want to dive right into all the topics because I've looked through your videos. I've seen all the videos, very educational and informational. And there's a few videos that I want to talk about today because I think a lot of people overlook using resistance bands in their training or don't really know how to program their workout. So I want to start with the video I saw with you talking about if you do an exercise and it feels good, you could go on to a 5 rep, you can go on 6 sets, 7 sets. If you're feeling good and you're getting that pump, you should keep doing the same exercise. Now, my question to you is because some of the other influencers that I've talked to, they had an opinion on not doing over even 3 to 4 sets for each exercise. And the reason being, if you're doing more than 4 sets, you might not be working your muscles hard enough, because if you can get that 4 sets, that means you didn't train hard enough in that first 1 or 2 sets. So I just wanted to know a little bit more about your take on this topic and this aspect of training.
Yeah, definitely so. The one thing to be understood, and I'll preface this because it's going to stage the whole conversation from my end, at least, on where I'm coming from. Bodybuilding, I regard it as a sport. It's a sport. Is that argued? It's argued by many people to not be a sport. So badge it what you want to, sport, competition, whatever. But for referral's sake right now, we'll call it a sport, okay?
Okay.
Bodybuilding is a sport, and we all think we know the best way to achieve the best physique for what God blessed us with. Mm-hmm. That means there's multiple avenues to reaching the best you. This is why there's a competitive stage with so many competitors. Everyone vying to be the best. Now, your approach to getting that is going to vary because we are all different backgrounds, different considerations and factors that come into making you the best person who you are. With that being said, now let's get into the question about resistance bands and dumbbell and pushing yourself to the absolute edge or not. Understanding who I am at 6'3", a taller bodybuilder, my approach towards gaining size, because that's one of the criteria of bodybuilding, size, symmetry, and proportion, is going to be different than that of a shorter counterpart. Or perhaps someone with zero athletic background, or perhaps someone who's already has certain muscle stimuli because of their backdrop to who they were before they began actual formal weight training. Let's just talk about a gymnast. We all know gymnasts have massive shoulders, massive deltoids. The way that they will go about getting stimuli out of that muscle fiber, which is going to stage growth, is going to be different than someone who is not a gymnast. What it's going to take to evoke the response that's needed for muscle growth. And the same when it comes to someone else of another competitive sport or someone who's never touched a weight in their life. Mm-hmm. So with that understanding, we know there's, my grandma said, multiple ways to skin a cat. All right. Now we'll go back to that video and say it this way. Set 1 is going to challenge the muscle, what I call manageable heavy. That means heavy enough to challenge the muscle, but not so heavy that it disrupts your form. And then you gauge that into set 2. And then you gauge based on how that felt going into set 3. It might or might not mean you're going to go up in repetitions. Let's say you're doing 15 repetitions instead. It might mean you're coming in at 12, maybe even 10. It might mean to get the next challenge for your next set, you might incrementally go up in weight. Hell, for set 4, you might say, I'm going to keep the same exact weight, but instead of getting 13 reps, I'm going to try my darndest to get 15. No matter what you decided, you're still finding a way to challenge the muscle. The lowbrow, dummy way of simply adding additional weight is just that, lowbrow and dummy. And with time, you're definitely going to see how that basic approach of simply pushing the muscle to its brink isn't going to hold up. It's not going to work. You also have
Mm,
what I refer to as called collateral damage. That means you're
mm,
trying to beat that muscle up, but in trying to beat that muscle up, you destroy the joint.
mm.
Now what's happening to your career?
I
Now you're
see.
nursing an injured or worn out shoulder. Look at the age of the Olympia lineup for the last few years. In fact, across the start of this or the inception of this sport, they're
Mm-hmm.
all older, aren't they? Because it's
Mm,
going to take time to mature and grow that muscle. I
of
don't care if
course.
you're using steroids or not, it's going to take time to mature
Right.
that muscle. You're not
Right.
going to last long at all with the dummy approach of simply grabbing heavy weight and banging away. Some will last, but trust me, there's an overwhelming representation of those who don't last. I'm
Mm,
someone, like you mentioned earlier, Noel, he's also the same age as I am. We're both 37. I think he might be
mm.
36, 37. It takes a lot of knowledge, smarts, know how to last this long and remain major injury free.
I like it. I love that. And so when we're talking about, doing sets, because I've seen some research is done that says again, I understand that, it's different for every person and it varies, your programming varies to an individual basis. But when we're looking at this, there's a general study that says um, the general rule of thumb is to train each muscle group, have 20 sets per muscle group per week. And so when you're saying like when we're doing more than 4 sets, you're going up to 5 sets, 6 sets, or 7 sets. The first few sets is more for kind of gauging how much you can handle.
Not really a
No,
gauge, it's active work of the muscle.
it's
So the
still active
first,
work.
it's still active work. So let's just say I'm going to do a very, very basic bicep workout. Ready? I'm going to start off with 3 bicep motions for today's workout. I'm going to do
Okay.
a standard curl using Olympic straight bar,
Yeah.
right? Now I'm going to go into a hammer curl, and now I'm going to go into a concentration curl. Okay.
Okay.
With that being said, I have, let's say, 4 sets for the first one, 8 sets with the second one included, and 12 sets with the third one included. I've gone a total of 12 total sets for this bicep workout.
Mm. Mm-hmm.
Everyone would agree, okay, that's like a pretty good workout, man. 3 exercises, and you go home. You pushed yourself.
Yeah.
Good stuff. But what if I were to tell you, for some reason, based on how I'm set up today, this straight bar and my mind to muscle connection was on fire with it. And it felt so good. Oh, it felt good to me. And the pump was coming along. Like Arnold said, it was like sex with this pump. I don't
Mm.
have to get up and walk away if this is my position and I like it. I'm going to stay here with it. I know it sounds kind of sexual, or not sounds, it is sexual, but I don't have to change positions. I
Mm.
can stay in a position right here. So instead of me going, let's say 4, 4, 4 evenly spread, I might just say, you know what? This 4 set good felt so good. Let me go into 5. Let me go
Mm.
into 6.
I see.
So of the total days set of 12, grouping of 12 sets, I spent 6 with the straight bar because it felt oh so good intuitively, listening to my body. Everyone says listen to your body, right? Truly
Yes.
listen to your body. If this felt
Yes.
good and that pump was coming along so well, go with it. You don't have
Mm.
to roll into that hammer curl because that hammer curl just might not feel very comfortable today. And it's just not
Mm.
it.
I
So
see.
being intuitive and listening to your body is how you're going to have to train. And it's just not going to work when you're confounding yourself to single researches or
I
studies
love that. Yeah,
from
no,
a
that's
totally
amazing.
detached researcher or a TikTok influencer.
Yeah.
TikTok is how old now?
I don't know.
Well,
I have an idea. Not that old.
however young TikTok is, it's pretty young. So are you
Yeah,
going to
yeah.
really tell me that this TikTok influencer who really started his career when TikTok started is going to use one probably unpeer reviewed research and cross compare that to a sport that's been here since the early 1900s,
Yeah, yeah.
to the successful of how many Olympians right now? I use Olympians as the pinnacle. Um,
Of course, yeah.
so come on, where are we at now with this? You get what I'm saying? Choose
Yeah,
your leader. Choose your leader, man.
definitely.
The research guy in the lab or the guy who put it into practice.
I like that you're using intuitiveness as kind of a baseline for your body, because I think that's very important to really listen to your body and what feels good for your body.
Yes.
And does that also play into diet as well, like what you eat? Because sometimes you're like, I'm bulking and I'm like, "Oh, I have to eat so much, but then I feel so full. Should I even still stuff down that extra 100, 1,000 calories?"
So there's different ways of going about the idea of a quote unquote bulk and a quote unquote cut, if you will.
Okay.
But I do believe in listening to yourself. Don't hurt yourself. You know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean? Don't hurt yourself. That is one thing that many of the bodybuilders of the 90s will admit to now they probably should not have done, which is really force feed and stuff themselves
I see.
to that degree. So, do you want
Mm.
to be completely intuitive when it comes to that? You can, but let me tell you something about that. Is sometimes when you're clear headed, the plan, the design, oh, it looks so good on paper. This is
Yeah.
what I'm going to start on Monday. And you say, this
Yeah.
is the plan. But when you actually put your hands to the plow and you're in the field, things change.
Of course. Yeah.
So being intuitive, which means going along with what's currently the feeling, can throw you off when it comes to something like dieting at times, or even something
Mm.
like cardio. How many times have you done a cardio and you say, oh man, 35 minutes is good enough? See, intuitively, your body's saying, hey, you go ahead and get off now. But when you were clear and present of mind and you said you knew for sure 40 was right, 40 was actually right minutes, perhaps.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Or
Yeah.
when you're doing that diet design, you actually had the real numbers there. The numbers made sense. And then you got to eat and you said, man, I'm still hungry. Here goes my intuitive side of things. Oh, yeah, I should probably eat some more. That wasn't
Yeah.
intuition. That was just your gluttony.
Yeah, and like
You
for a
know,
lot of people who want to lose weight or lose fat, they always have this sweet tooth, and so you
exactly.
know,
So
yeah,
it's really, really tricky. So intuition is something I do believe in and listening to when it comes to listening to your body. So I do believe in intuition, but do understand that until you are really, really matured and seasoned in the sport, you need to have a template to some degree. You
yeah,
know what I mean? Because your intuition just ain't good right now. It just
of
ain't good.
course,
You know what I mean?
yeah, yeah. So your another one of your very popular videos is the resistance band video where you're doing your lateral raises and then you drop the dumbbells and then you go right into the red, I think it was the red band, and then you do, more reps. And what is really the benefit of going right into a resistance band set?
Yeah. So everyone gets pissed off about this when I say it, unless you come from the larger um, belief of what we did back in earlier bodybuilding. I say
Okay.
earlier in a sense of my age, which is going to be early 2000s, but those guys were already training through the 90s. So I'm listening to people like Jay Cutler. I'm listening to Ronnie Coleman. I'm using these guys again because they're the pinnacle of it all.
Of
If you
course.
get to that point or not, you're on the same career track. I doubt you'll ever reach there, but you're still on the same track.
Yes.
Cardio, strength training, and recovery, right? That's your meal design. Back to the point. The idea here was trying to get a good pump. Okay. And when I
Okay.
say pump really does matter. A really, really good pump from pushing the muscle does actually matter. So I'm going to challenge my deltoids here specifically because the deltoids aren't capable of getting a really good work with really heavy weight because you're going to run into what
Mm,
I told you about earlier, which is collateral damage. Remember I told you about
mm,
the collateral damage earlier? So in trying to attack that side deltoid like a moron, you're trying to just go up, up, up in weight. Let me tell you something, bro. You're not going to progress beyond 20, 25, 30 in your career when it comes to side deltoids, not with
mm,
good form.
mm-hmm.
Take cross comparison. Everyone loves C-bum. I love them myself. You're not going to catch C-bum progressing to the point of using 70-pound side races. You never caught Ronnie Coleman progressing to the point of doing 80-pound side raises because based off the math that I'm being told by the new age concept of progressive overload, moving on to heavier and heavier and heavier weight for the most of the growth, you should probably be sitting at about 100 pounds at the culmination of your career. That's not how it works. That's
So
stupid. So trying to
what's
get a
your
pump, use the dumbbell and go into
yeah.
resistance band. Same concept is what I'm trying to illustrate there.
So what's your opinion on, because this is probably like just like, young influencers on TikTok doing stuff like this, which call themselves, experts and professionals. But what is your opinion on people who are doing partial lateral raises with really heavy weight because they've said that it's beneficial in a way where if you go really heavy, do partial reps, and then you go back to the lighter weight, it becomes much easier.
That loops back to the original question you asked about the resistance band. Is you're trying to get the deltoid to respond. You can't simply use heavier weight to get it to respond. So I personally use a moderate weight that I can control, and then I double down by using
I
a
see.
resistance band, right? So
I
if you're
see.
doing the same thing now by using a much heavier weight and then switching to a much lighter weight, then yeah, you are getting a response. But the trick here is there is an inherent danger with the really heavy weight. Does that make sense?
Yeah,
There
definitely.
is no
100%.
inherent danger using a moderate dumbbell and a
Of
much
course.
lighter resistance band for 15 reps directly behind doing the actual motion. But there is a major risk in you redlining your damn deltoid with the side
Yeah.
brace and those overly super heavy weights. Your shoulders aren't going to last. I promise you. Now get big with no shoulders. It ain't happening, bro.
Now, can I ask, using resistance bands, is that the same thing as if I were to go to the cables or if I were to use a even lighter set of dumbbells?
Exactly. We're talking 59-second clips I'm shooting. I don't like content to go beyond 59 seconds
Of
typically.
course. Yeah.
So I'm not going to show someone how to use, you can use my style, which is a dumbbell, and then go into a resistance band. Or you use a dumbbell and go into this standing cable. Or use a dumbbell and then go into the actual rear deck fly. It's too many options. And I
Of
think the
course.
average person, I hope they have the aptitude. Not everybody's out here as smart as you are, my man, but I hope you have enough of the aptitude up here to understand that a
Yeah.
cable motion is the same as a rubber cabling emotion. It's the same concept, right? It's a
Yeah.
much lighter, just different piece of equipment. Some equipment's red, some equipment's blue. It's the same concept, though,
Same
right?
concept. Same concept.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
That's called
This,
quibbling, is what they run into. It's called quibbling. Losing sight of the major focus, focusing on the much smaller, minuscule point. Cable resistance
right.
band, same thing.
And I like well, I don't like to do this, but I overcomplicate things a lot. And so when I'm thinking about using a resistance band, I'm thinking about the resistance is much lighter at the bottom than it is at the top. So does that make a difference in terms of should I use a resistance band or a cable?
There's mechanical advantage and disadvantage to every simple machine in life.
I see.
In this instance here, you're going to find mechanical advantage and disadvantage. Now, how do you get beyond that mechanical disadvantage of using that resistance band? As you said, it's most resistance at the top portion of the motion. So how do I get more resistance out of it? Maybe I'll go beyond that typical 90-degree plane. Instead of becoming
Okay.
parallel to the floor, maybe now I'll go
I see.
higher than that. With the dumbbell, I don't have to because it's going to
Mm,
resist me pretty good until I reach parallel to the floor.
yeah.
But with the resistance band, that's when the going gets good. So with that being said, stay in that range. Go a little
Mm-hmm.
bit higher. Again, this
Mm,
is about intuitively listening to yourself. If right at this point here it feels good to me, okay, cool. It still feels good. It still is my shoulder. I can stay there because it's still my shoulder. There's a terminal point to where it no longer becomes your shoulder when you're sitting here like this, looking
yeah.
stupid. So of course you'll stop short of that.
Yeah.
Yeah, but again, what's happening is, and you said it, you said the same thing, or you said it about yourself, is overthinking the sport is what makes
Yeah.
it so daunting. It says this is
Yeah.
not a binary exchange. I don't give you two when you give me back one thing. It's not an
Mm,
exchange. It's going to be working through application from yourself to yourself, I should say. And do know this, bro. Who you are at 21 is not who you are at 25. You got to learn that 25-year-old person. Then you got to learn the 30-year-old you. Then you got to learn
mm,
the 35-year-old you. It's never going to be the same you. You're constantly
mm,
being intuitive and listening to yourself, staying abreast of the sciences being offered, perhaps trying a new thing or so to see what's going to work. I'll spend a whole season trying a new concept. And then I go out there
mm.
for the cut in spring and realize, damn, That wasn't a very good concept. It didn't leave me with very much muscle now that I cut down.
Yeah.
Let me try this next time. You spend a whole year trying new things.
Yeah. I tried the lateral raise the other day, went into the resistance band, and you're right, I got an amazing pump. It was one of the, best shoulder workouts I've ever had, so I'm
And
definitely gonna
joints
keep
didn't
doing that.
hurt.
Yeah,
Yeah.
joints didn't hurt.
Yeah.
And
You're gonna have to
so
address the pump problem in a second as well, because they're gonna be mad about you for me not explaining the pump portion.
I was just going to ask about the pump portion.
Okay.
So my question is, and you can, elaborate on, the other perspectives on it as well, but my question really is the pump actually very important? Is increasing the blood flow into the shoulders actually very important for progressing and growing your muscles?
Okay. So our heart is the pump, right? That's the
Yes.
pumping mechanism that's going to pump this blood all throughout your body, your circulatory system. This circulatory system is extremely important, and every component of your body has a series of arteries and veins going to it. All right, a series
Okay.
of them, because every part of you needs what's inside of that. That's oxygen rich and nutrients. It's
Right.
inside of that blood. Okay, coming fresh out of that heart is fresh, loaded with it. So if that muscle is at work, you're creating a series of micro tears. That's what bodybuilding is, right? Or muscle training is, right?
Yes.
Creating a series
Yep.
of micro tears, then the micro tears heal, and the fiber is bigger, right? This is the whole hypertrophy everyone's talking about.
Okay.
So this is what's happening now. Okay, so when that muscle's at work, that body says, send oxygen to it, send nutrients to it, because we got to repair what he's doing to it. Good
Yeah.
sign of what's happening is the blood engorging that muscle. It's running, trying to repair and fix that muscle. Now, the other thing on the backside of that, like your car engine, when that engine's working and it's combusting, out the backside of your car is what's called exhaust. That's the byproduct of that engine working. The byproduct of that mitochondria, the byproduct of that actual muscle cell working is lactic acid, ammonia, what we call metabolic waste.
Mm-hmm.
That's that burn you felt sitting up in there.
Mm.
You
Mm.
know what carries that burn up out of there?
Mm.
The blood.
Mm.
It's going to circulate it back out of there, right?
I see.
So you got rich blood coming in with oxygen and nutrient, and it's also carrying itself out the depleted of that richness of nutrients and oxygen, but it's also carrying out the metabolic waste, and it's sending it back to the heart to start the process again. And an efficient circulatory system, which is why cardio is so important 24/7, an efficient circulatory system keeps that process at best. This is why cardio
Mm.
must be there in off season and off season, on season,
Mm.
to keep that system, that cardiopulmonary system working as absolutely efficient as it can. That's why it's so important. So yeah, a pump is probably a good indication of that process of what's going on. Does that make sense? Broken down that
Yeah.
way?
Yeah, of course. Should you do so? Because a lot of people overlook cardio. No, nobody really likes doing cardio. Is there a rule of thumb of how much cardio you should do? Should you do cardio before your workout? Does that help during your workout?
I personally don't like the idea of doing cardio in the same session of strength training, because
I
so much
see.
what my muscles will need can be
Yeah,
depleted during that cardio session. And I
gotcha.
spent a whole bunch of time trying to build that muscle. The last thing I want to do is risk losing that muscle.
Okay.
So if I'm actually causing that muscle to work, but I'm not actually giving the muscle what it needs to work, it's going to start to downsize that muscle. The whole idea here is to slow muscle breakdown
Mm-hmm.
as much as you can while you're increasing muscle protein synthesis. You're trying to increase the muscle mass and slow the process that causes it to break it down. Running an engine empty is going to break it down.
So correct me if I'm wrong. If I don't have enough glucose or glycogen in my muscles when I'm working out, that does more harm than good, right?
You can definitely run the risk of causing the muscle to go into a catabolic place whereby it's not building. You
I
have
see.
anabolic, which is building, catabolic, which is breaking down. The whole
Mm-hmm.
concept is to make sure you never hit the catabolic place. Who wants to see their bank account go into the red?
Yeah.
Nobody, bro. The same thing when it comes to that muscle building process. And that's the part that people must understand. As a bodybuilder, the biggest thing I say bodybuilder because we're all pursuing more muscle mass in a
Yes.
symmetrical format, okay? So the whole goal of a bodybuilder is to try to make sure he's always in a place of building muscle mass. And if he has to get to a point in his year where he has to lower the fat, he's going to do so at the absolute painstaking efforts of trying to make sure he doesn't lose any of the muscle while trying to peel the fat back. Does that make sense?
Yeah, and to do that, what you would try and do is replenish your glycogen systems as well as make sure your protein intake is high. Am I
Because the
correct?
mitochondria runs off of that's the engine of the muscle cell. It runs off of that stored glycogen, which is
Mm,
glucose converted and stored in the muscle. Now, the whole idea is not have too much of that glycogen just sitting inside of there, because an overabundance in storage of this blood sugar level totally in the body
comes fat.
and glycogen stored is fat. There you go. So there's a fine line we're trying to run when we're cutting. The fine line is having just enough to keep the muscle powered up to work out and be strong, but not have too much where it begins to
Hmm.
spill over and store. But at the same time,
Mm,
do not have too low. Because if it's too low, I'm going to tap into burning the muscle mass instead.
mm.
This is why the sport is so beautiful, bro. Who can figure this delicate balance out the absolute longest while increasing, or excuse me, while entertaining the other factors of life to also consider injury and injury prevention? This is why it's such a great sport. There is no time off from it, man. There's no off season.
Yeah. And so
There's
that's
a
why you got to really
non-staging
enjoy it all
season.
the time. Yeah. So that reminds me of a video you made where you say, your opinion really was working out in the evening is probably better than working out in the morning. Correct me if I'm wrong, and you said because in the evening you get you have more glycogen, you're more hydrated, and then there is a portion where you mentioned that if you're tired after work, then maybe taking a pre-workout is a good way to go to make sure you're energized for your workout. So then my question to that is, if I'm feeling really tired and take a pre-workout to still force myself to work out, is my body going to be able to recover from that and really be able to handle it?
So there is an entertainment value to content creation, delivering something that's interesting, something that's going to evoke conversation.
Controversy.
What I
Yeah.
said, no, 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 not really
No,
controversial.
not
I'm not really
controversy.
shocked. I'm not really a shock jock kind of person, but just to
Okay.
evoke and have the conversation. So
Okay.
with that being put out there, what's better, evening or morning? Everyone has an opinion because everyone has an individual life. My
Yes.
life happens to include a wife and two kids,
Mm-hmm.
but my life also allows me to have the whole day to do what I want until I got to pick the kids up, right? So I have the room to do cardio in the morning time and then
I see.
casually eat breakfast and then casually have another meal and then go work out. I had
Mm-hmm.
two meals before I had my first training session. And then I
Mm.
went and got the kids and then just chilled for the rest of the day because my
Yeah.
life lets me do that. Now, for the average American working a 9 to 5, there is no time for morning cardio,
Mm-hmm.
not at an actual gym. You know what I mean? The average
Yeah.
American does have a manual job. So they are going to be perhaps physically tired. So they can't actually work out as strong post 12-hour work shift. So for
Mm-hmm.
some people, with those other factors being included or, inputted to their formula that is their life, training in the morning time is best because they get fresh out of bed. They can get one meal, get a quick little pre-workout just for that little caffeinated edge, work out, and then go about their day because the construction site is going to have them dead by 5 o'clock.
Yeah.
So for that person, it is best to be in the morning time. Again, it goes back to the actual sport itself, which is based on your life and your life's considerations, what's best for you.
Mm-hmm.
Evening versus morning, it does vary. I know I talked a lot on that one, but I really hope that did kind of cover the concept of the question of so. But I will tell you this about it as well as far as the ending part goes. You have to weigh out the cost benefit analysis. If you're having to falsely prop yourself up with caffeine to get the workout done, chances are that's not the time for your workout because you're working
Mm,
out on steam and caffeine, and the
mm,
body needs much more than steam and caffeine to work out.
yeah,
You get what I'm saying? So
I understand.
retool your life to get the workout in at the best time for you.
If I had a very physical job like construction working, and I'm dead, 5 days a week, but I still want to work out, I still want to get in the gym. Is it a good idea to get in the gym 5 days a week, or should I kind of lower it to like 3 days a week?
Well, it all depends on what your goals are. Everyone's goals are different. My goal is to be able to stand out in the crowd, no matter what the crowd is.
Mm,
Okay. So I want to be very elite. So it
yeah,
requires a lot of sacrifice and dedication to do so. That guy who works outdoors as a construction worker and wants to be equally as elite no matter where he goes, that guy might
sorry,
have a goal that's just too tall for what his life allows him to do at this point.
got it.
You know what I mean? Everyone can't have what they desire. Simple as that,
Yeah.
bro. That's how life works.
So then that kind of leads into another conversation, which is how people are genetically made. So there, so there are some people that are made with, very nice chest insertions, nice lat insertions, build muscles relatively easily, compared to other people. And so I've heard that, genetic is a very big factor in muscle building, how you make progress. But that doesn't really mean that even if you don't have these genetic or advantages, that doesn't mean you can't build muscle, right? You probably just can't do it as quick as the person who is genetically blessed.
You have to redefine what blessing is. Um, so genetic blessings for some could mean someone who is 5'6". This guy will have the ability to pretty massive, look pretty massive. I say look pretty massive a lot faster than the average person can. He can do so
Mm-hmm.
probably at 175 pounds,
Mm-hmm.
right? So he could be quote unquote genetically blessed. But at the same time, though, I would have called him genetically cursed if you spoke to me in high school, college. This guy sucks for basketball.
Yeah.
So who's genetically blessed here?
Yeah.
Now, if we want to entertain the idea of aesthetics for a stage, then perhaps the much shorter guy is genetically blessed because he's going to look a lot thicker. The muscle is a lot more dense on such a short, compact
Mm,
frame. But he better
I
not stand next
see.
to me because if I get this size on, it's going to take me a little bit longer to make my longer limbs, much longer bones look fuller. But once they are, you can't stand next to me because it's a big
I
ass
see.
shadow. You get what I'm saying?
Mm, I
So
get what you're
while it
saying.
may be quicker to him to look a certain way, it might not pan out for him in the long run if
Mm,
you're talking about aesthetics alone, which is on a stage. Sebum is not short. That's why he's so graceful looking on stage. It's a beautiful long, there's beautiful long lines on him. It looks
mm-hmm.
good to our eye. You know what I mean?
Mm,
Keep it real. Now,
yeah.
short guy's not gonna be happy about that. But hell, in America, the average male is what, 5'8", I want to say at this point?
Yeah.
Anyone over 6 foot is actually 14% of the population. Over 6'2"
Right.
is 4% of the population. So do you see how elite someone becomes? No matter what, bro, you still gotta deal with what you got to make it look best for who you are. Again, the beauty of the sport.
I
Making
love that.
yourself be the best of who you are based on what you were given. And what makes me look best might not be what makes this guy look best.
Yeah. I love that. I've never thought about it that way. And so that's a very good perspective to have.
Yeah.
Yeah. But so when we're talking about like the amount of progress I can make, can can everybody in general, can everybody build muscle?
Yeah, every human's barring, some kind of a larger medical diagnosis, um, everyone is designed the same, which is
Mm,
the ability to add or lose muscle mass. We're all still fully capable of doing so. Yeah, 100%. We're all designed the
mm,
same as humans. but who can know themselves enough. And also, the average person, in my opinion, overwhelmingly will never know their genetic potential because most people just don't have the aptitude to apply themselves to
Yeah.
that degree long enough to even see their potential. Starting off at
Mm.
23 is cool, but bro, you're late. I started when I was 5 playing sports, lifting weights when I was 18. You come to the party at 23 on the back end of your hormonal peak. Don't get me wrong. I encourage you. That's my job to encourage you to be the best you. But man, be real about this, bro. It just might not be in your potential, or it might not be in the hand that you were dealt.
It takes time. It really takes time.
It takes time.
I want to talk a little bit about. I want to dive a little bit deeper into some of the certain exercises that I've seen you do. One of them, also, by the way, we've hit the. I think it's a 30-minute mark. Are we still
Okay.
okay on time?
Yeah, we're solid.
Okay, perfect. So one of the exercises I wanted to talk about is the trap exercise you do. I think you grabbed an easy bar. I don't know if it was easy bar or not. Put it behind the back, and then you were doing shrugs for your traps. So I tried the exercise. I like it. What is the difference between a behind the back shrug and putting the dumbbells in front of me or a barbell in front of me and shrugging from that position?
So the position of your shoulders will change, and it is a ball joint. And if you see a ball joint, it moves multifaceted, right? It's a very interesting joint. So based on where the weight or the load is being positioned, is going to change how that joint or how the muscles that are innervating that joint are going to move. I'll try to make it simple.
Okay.
Sorry. The
No worries.
joint
That's
of
good.
that ball joint is there. Okay. Saddle inside of there. Okay. Based on where it is positioned is going to change what muscles are going to be at play. So what's going to elevate my shoulders based on where my hands are at? Certain muscles will lead. And if
Okay.
my weights are in a different position of my body, other muscles will lead to innervate or move that joint, that ball joint that is that shoulder. You get it? So
I get it.
simply putting that barbell behind me makes me drop that weight drastically because you're not going to hold 135 behind you. That's not going to happen. But dropping that weight and moving that position caused me to actually emphasize a little more of the mid portion of my trap.
Mm.
You have upper, mid, and that lower trap portion, right?
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
just simply moving the angles, changing the position of that load will change what parts of that muscle are being emphasized. Don't forget, everything you do is going to always have a primary and a secondary. The primary mover versus the secondary mover. And that shifts from exercise to exercise, position, position. Does that part make
Nice.
sense? And
That
then
makes sense.
to be a complete bodybuilder, I'm gonna have to train everything so everything can grow at different angles.
So that plays into if I'm growing. It's the same idea as if I'm trying to grow my shoulders. I would work the front, the medial, and the rear.
Yeah, by positioning
Similar.
that weight different. You know what I mean? No matter
Right.
what, the humerus is coming up, right? This upper arm is coming up no matter what. Is it coming up
Right.
towards the front of me, or coming up
Yeah.
towards the side of me, or is it coming
Yeah.
towards the rear of me? Because each position it's in, it's shifting the primary mover.
Yeah.
And again, when it comes to bodybuilding, man, the human body is so fancy that we just put it through a battery of different motions to try and get different parts of the muscle to grow. And then when you got it all in a great, perfect balance, so you think, you might stand on stage and say, okay, judges, what do you think about me next to him? That's what it's
Yeah.
about ultimately here. And then it might not be on a stage. It might just be simply on the beach. And you say, man,
Yeah.
that guy, he has good biceps, but they're so powerful that it makes his chest look sucky.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean? Or man, his traps are so massive that it makes his shoulders look silly. Now he looks like a sloping pyramid. Overdevelopment of certain muscles can really de-emphasize other muscles.
Right. Right. Can I ask, do you train your neck?
No, there's way too many. That's the connection of this brain to my body is going through here. And if I'm training my neck and I'm over tightening those muscles, getting a pump in my neck, yeah, there's a series of veins and arteries going through there, most specifically the
Mm.
carotid artery. And you don't want to create any tension or tightening in that area. That's also why I don't do a whole
Oh.
lot of forearm exercises. There's a whole lot of nerves coming through here. And if you're banging away at your forearms, trust me, right now, hold on to your hand right here at the wrist and squeeze it for me, bro. Squeeze
Squeeze.
that.
Ah, I see
So
what you mean.
imagine, so let me over tighten my forearm muscles with continually
Nah,
trying to go away at them. It's gonna cause all kind of issues, bro. It ain't. No, it's not like that. It's
that's
not
not
that.
it.
So
That's not
I like to
it.
get passive ways of training that stuff. So training my traps will involve some neck muscles, but there is no compulsory neck pose to be done. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
So if I train my forearms, but then I also stretch it and create a lot of flexibility, does that help?
Yeah, that's great. That's great. But I wouldn't say it's a major muscle to be trained. You know what I mean? So while I'm
Yeah.
doing my back exercises, for instance, I'll oftentimes not use a full on grip. You know what I mean? Or when I'm doing
Okay.
certain grips, I'm gonna intentionally use my grip. Because using these opposable thumbs and not using them can emphasize the usage of your forearms or not. You know what I mean? Sometimes this is also why a lot of guys like myself scoff at using external equipment because it de-emphasizes the development of certain stability muscles that are needed during exercises. So if I was someone who was constantly using gloves and wraps in the developmental stages of my life, of my physique, I would probably have undergrowth in my
I
actual
see.
forearms
I
because I'm
see.
using these external muscles, these straps I bought for $14. The straps are getting put to the test, never my forearms. You get
Mm-hmm.
what I'm saying? Never my forearms. So I intentionally want to be in the raw as much as I can come into place to help my full physique develop. Does that make sense also?
That makes sense, and that's I think that's where I run into some issues with my own training is when I'm doing, say, like like a lat pull down, my forearms get sore before my back gets sore, and then I'm just like, you know what? Let me use straps, and so I'm training with straps basically all the time now with my rows, whatnot. So then now my forearms are never ever getting any sort of activation.
Exactly. You got it. And this is how over time your physique can mature. I'm so sorry for this, man, but I have to really get that
Of
time going.
course.
So what I'm doing is this is not a plug-in, but this is one of my companies I deal with, Flex Pro Meals. And I gotta
Nice.
throw this pre-workout meal inside it real fast. I use them sometimes in between my own meal prep. But
I love it. It's pretty convenient, I assume.
yeah, man, you see right now I can throw it in real fast because today's a Friday. I don't have enough meal preps left, so I had to work for now. So what's happening is you're
Nice.
100% right, man. As you grow and develop, if you allow your body to grow and it's natural, and if you allow the body to grow as it wants to, it's going to allow other muscles to appropriately be used to grow because you have what's called size, symmetry, and the third one is proportion.
Proportion.
There it goes.
Should I still train my because I feel my forearms pretty small. Should I still train my forearms on a separate day, you
I
think?
mean, you can throw your forearms in for occasional set or two, but I personally would not want to see anyone in there pumping away consistently because today is chest and forearms. Yeah, that's not really a thing. You know what I mean?
Ah, I see.
You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, gotcha. So is
For
there,
the aesthetic person, excuse me, not the functional usage of whatever said sport. Someone's going to quibble about that, I'm sure.
yeah. What do what's your opinion on fasted cardio? Do you do fasted cardio?
Different points of my year, I will do it fasted. Sometimes I won't. When I'm in more of a cutting type deal, I will kind of do it in there. I'll put it in
Okay.
there. But I actually have great content about just that fasting cardio versus not fasted. Again, your lifestyle is going to have to play into that. So if you can do your cardio fasted, for some they can. But do know this: to do your cardio fasted, you're going to have to go on an empty stomach. That's the idea, fasted, right? Which means
Yes.
doing it before your day begins. Which also means you have to get up extra early to do it. Now, if
Yes.
you can't get to bed in time to get a full 6.5+ hours of sleep, well, now you trying to do your cardio in the fasted state is dipping into one of the largest components of recovery, which is sleep. So again, so many more factors come into place to say if or if not fasted cardio is going to be the best. for who you are and your life? Is the juice worth the squeeze? You know what I mean? Is doing cardio fasted worth losing sleep? In my opinion, no.
Mm.
If it's going to cause you to lose sleep, as an example of a quick factor to be considered.
So then if it didn't cause me to lose sleep, it would be beneficial in terms of what they say is, oh, you burn more fat.
Is what some people may believe, but do know this: fasted cardio was not really a thing until, by my quick rough estimate, mid 2000s. Man, we didn't hear much about fasted cardio, and I could be misquoting this, but you didn't hear too much about fasted cardio in the earlier years. That fasted cardio is relatively new. There was no such thing back in the day because and all of my heroes were fearful of doing anything empty. I just slept for
Mm.
7 hours, bro. Now I'm gonna get up and spend another 2 hours without eating. Man, I just went 9 hours without eating. That's a long time with no food coming in. The
Yeah.
possibility of losing muscle mass is scary. Jay Cutler had an alarm set up at different parts of his career, an alarm
Yeah.
set to the middle of the night to get up, eat, and go back to sleep. It's how serious we were about never ever being in a place of possibly, maybe, perhaps going into a catabolic place.
It's
So
fun.
it's
It's funny you
inconclusive.
say that. It's funny you say that you haven't really heard about it until maybe the 2000s, and I find that's with a lot of different stuff that you haven't heard of that's recently come up that people say was better or is more optimal or will
Yeah,
work.
yeah. I hate
It's
that
funny
word so
because
bad.
yeah, I think it's funny because, people from, more so your generation or even older is that they didn't do these things that we called optimal, but they made so much progress, incredible progress. So,
Absolutely, man. Absolutely. So this is why the word optimal, don't get me wrong, I'm always about entertaining new breakthroughs. New medical breakthroughs are being had on a regular basis. New scientific discoveries are being had on a regular basis. But that is to be built upon. You know what I mean? And perhaps
yeah.
another angle to be tried. If you think this is great, then by all means, young man, try it and see how it turns out.
Mm,
Can't dismiss the way that I've tried and to my success. This is
yeah.
my way. So I'm going to do this. Oh, you figured that out? Okay, cool. Do that, man. Let me see how it turns out. Seriously. In about a year or two or three or four or 10 or 12 years, because it's going to take that time. It's going
Yeah.
to take some time. So let me see
Yeah.
how it pans out for you, my man. But you simply doing a quick research and a Google search, you got to try it first, bro. Like Tyson says, and everyone got a plan till they get punched in the mouth.
Hmm.
Apply it and see if it holds up to the test of time. Does it really
Yeah.
work?
I love that. Got to try it for yourself and make sure that because
Yeah.
again, like you said, everything is different. Everything is different for an individual. So, individualizing your program is gonna definitely be key. Um, but yeah, I know you have to eat, so I don't want to keep you for too long. Is there, any last words, advice, or anything you want to tell the audience?
But yeah, man. Personally, I'm a bodybuilder, and I love what bodybuilding can do for any and everyone. I was someone who played sports my whole life. I put on a gi when I was 5, karate.
Wow.
Then I went into playing basketball and football, back and forth alternately throughout the year. Got to college, played basketball, and then found football. Or excuse me, found weightlifting when I
Mm,
got to college. No longer playing basketball. So it's a great sport, and I want everyone to know that no matter who you are a bodybuilder. If you decide to get onto a competitive stage or not, you're still a bodybuilder because you're trying to
yes.
magnify that which you were given. You know what I mean? And even if you don't get onto a stage, again, you're a bodybuilder, as I said a second ago. And I say it's kind of like an artist. People who paint in their house, watercolor and easel, they love to paint. They are an artist. You don't have to have an exhibit and sell your art to be an artist.
I
You don't
like
have
that
to
a lot.
display your art in public to be an artist. You are still an artist. The one thing about us that makes us very special artists, though, bodybuilders, is that no matter where we go, our artistry is on display. You know, if you're a badass watercolor kind of guy and your easels are just dope, I've still got to go to your house for you to show it to me.
Mm.
You know what I mean? As a bodybuilder, no matter where you go, bro, you created your own celebrity. If it's in the Publix or if it's inside a Walmart or any grocery store, your celebrity is on display. Your work or lack thereof is on display. So I encourage everyone to do it, man. See the best that you can be. Woman, men, young, old. Let's all see who we can be.
I love it. Wear some tight clothes.
Wear some tight clothes, man.
I love it. Thank you so much, Ron, for again taking the time out of your day to come on the show. That was actually a very, very insightful episode, even for myself. And I think I'm going to take a lot of the things that I learned today and apply it to my own programming and my own training. And I hope the people watching this can do the same as well.
Yeah, for sure, man. I'm glad we had this talk. Definitely had this talk. A lot more of a chance to hear about me versus the 59 seconds of brevity everyone gets on social media.
That wraps up episode 12 of Gym Bro Talks. Thanks for sticking around for another episode. Today's episode, lots of information, a lot of stuff I personally haven't heard of before, so I've definitely learned a lot. I hope you guys have enjoyed this episode. Now make sure you let me know which guests you want on the show next and what questions I should ask them.